The following is a production of Boiling Springs, Upstate Prepcast.
Bonus, I do believe. Hey,
State you're in.
Yeah, do
If
too many
it's
things at one
South
time.
Carolina, we'll go 0-1-2.
0-1-2.
So we're on week 3.
Well, at the end of our third game so far in the 2025 season, I guess you call it week 2. Welcome to Real Talk with Coach Real. We are missing our flagship leader tonight. Big Nasty Tom is on assignment. So Ken and I are tag team, Tom Waddell with Coach Matt Real, Ken Walter, with the fourth edition of the Real Talk with Coach Matt Real. Coach, I hope the boys are excited coming off a humongous win Friday night, crosstown rival, friendly rival, cookout bowl, whatever you want to call it. But a big win against the Chapman Panthers coming off on Friday night.
We need to get Cookout involved with
It would be awesome.
this bowl we've been bringing up. I'm a big fan of that place. You can tell by looking at me.
We all are.
But no, it was a big game for us. One, it was our first home game. Two, like you said, it's somewhat of a rivalry game. I think, depending on which way you look at it, we're obviously, I think, 6.4 miles away from each other. A lot of commonalities between us. And then two, it was the next game on our schedule, and we needed a big pickup going into this week, which is our bye week, and then obviously we got Gaffney next week. So really, really pleased with how the whole. I talked last week about trying to really stack plays from every phase of the game, from offense to defense to special teams. Just let it flow smoothly, do the things the right way, put pressure on them in every possible way that we could. And I thought our kids did a great job of doing that. From our the kickoff return, we went up to the 45. 2 plays later, we're in the end zone. It was just a great start defensively. Came out flying around, caused some turnovers, and really, I thought we really just dominated the game, and our kids did a great job of not getting caught up in having success, but then just continuing to do all the little things. And that was our challenge at halftime. We had a big lead at halftime, and we've been in situations before where we went in those situations and we just kind of came out complacent, came out not still motivated, it felt like sometimes. And I thought Friday night was a complete opposite. I thought it was 4 quarters. Obviously, the last 2 went pretty fast, but 4 quarters of our guys being laser focused, having really good effort, and then just executing the game plan from, in a lot of situations, our starters all the way down to our 3s and 4s. So really proud of how they all played, and it was truly, a team effort, getting the job done on Friday night.
Yeah, you mentioned the especially special teams. We mentioned several times on the broadcast Friday night our starting field position. We were, we on the other side of the 40 probably the first half of the game. I mean, that was our starting field position. It was probably late in the second quarter, early third quarter before we were deep in our own territory. So that, I'm sure that takes a load off there.
Well, I thought too. A lot of special teams is just effort, and taking pride in some of the things that just realistically some people don't want to do. But for me, I've always thought we need to put our best players on special teams. And you watch the college game, and a lot of the coaches I respect and look to, and try to take some advice from. They emulate the same thing. Their best guys are on their special teams, and I think if you think back through, like since I've been here, a lot of our really good players, Spencer Ison, JoJo Barrett, Calvin Jackson, just a lot of the guys I think of when I first got here, and then as we went through last year with Jeremiah, playing out wide and down in punts for us and different stuff like that. Like, to me, you got to take advantage of special teams. You got to change field where you're starting at, where they're starting at. And we talked to our guys a lot about hidden yards. Fair catching the ball or letting it drop and them getting 15 to 20 extra yards. Where you're starting at. There's a big difference from a play caller standpoint if we're starting on a 35 or 40 compared to our own 7.
Right.
And then as a defense, it's the same thing. You kind of limit, what offenses can do unless they're just really willing to take a shot. And a lot of people aren't, when they're backed up behind the chains. So just winning those hidden yards. I thought our punt, when we did have to punt, they did a great job changing the field. Our return, the couple times we did it, we had big returns. And I thought our kickoff coverage was phenomenal the whole night. We didn't give up big returns. We forced them into starting at their own 20, 15 a couple times. And when you can do that, it just puts a lot of pressure. One, they have to go 85 yards to score. But two, I think it limits, what they really want to be able to call in those situations. And then that allows you as a defense to really zone in on the things they're going to try and do. So just a great job all the way around by our coaches and our players of executing the game plan and really just, honestly just dominating every phase of the game.
It felt that way. Everything, offense, defense, special teams, kickoff return. They couldn't get a leg up on anything.
Yep.
I mean, you were dominating them on every aspect. So,
Yeah.
and you talked about the players. Sorry, Ken.
Yeah.
You talked about some of your best players on special teams. You've seen that with Jeremiah blocking these in the first few weeks, blocking the extra points, and obviously a large portion of DJ getting the Player of the Week this week was a lot of his return yards, in addition to his interception stuff on defense.
Sure.
So you see all of that it playing into the game too.
Well, when you can start an offensive drive inside your own 15, you got to feel pretty good about your chances of scoring. And I keep telling people, man, we got playmakers everywhere. We really do. Seeing Jamarcus, make plays in the secondary, Tavion making plays in the secondary. Will Guyback got into the action this week. TJ Collins has been doing it, for 3 years. Favorite we talked about multiple times. DJ, he's been an offensive player, and defensive player for us for 2 years. And right now we just, with some injuries, we moved him to corner, Friday night. So it's a position he hasn't played since the summer. Goes over there, plays really, really well at corner, has an interception, has 2 or 3 big returns for us in the punt return game and the kickoff return game. And there's multiple ways to get guys the football. It doesn't necessarily have to be you into, hey, we want to have a big offensive play right here on kickoff return, or hey, from a kickoff standpoint, we want to perfectly place the ball between the hash and the numbers, or the numbers in the sideline. So the kicker's got to be accurate, and we got to fill our lanes, but we also got to do it with immaculate effort. And Friday night was encouraging for me because we saw a lot of those things, and we saw a lot of guys be put in situations to make plays, and they made plays.
Absolutely.
Yeah, big plays. And Coach, like you are talking, the starting field position, we always had good start field position, but your offense still managed over 350 yards total offense, held Chapman under 100 yards total offense, and then 3 big touchdown receptions. I mean, all 3 of them were highlight films, in my opinion. I mean, that Jaden Samuel broke 2 tackles on his 23. I mean, that was just pure toughness just to get through those tackles and go in. And then Jaden Great made a great tackle just right down here in the corner of the end zone, getting the foot inbounds, to score that touchdown.
Yeah.
So everybody was making plays.
Well, and I keep telling guys, like last year, we had some really good players, but we were kind of dominant with one player that made, those big plays downfield. And this year I feel like we've really got a multitude of guys that if we just take what's there and we don't force, we don't lock in on one guy pre-snap and say, hey, look, this is a guy we're going to. We've got a lot of guys that can make plays. Grayson Crow made some, plays for us Friday night, and he always does. Jaden had a really good really big play for us. Our running backs, Kyron had a big catch on 3rd and I think 6 or 7, got us a first down. Tamaje got us a couple first downs on some balls out of the backfield. I thought Isaiah ran really hard in between the tackles for us. I thought Kyron did a good job on the goal line down there of pushing the pile and getting in. And, Jaden Samuel, like you said, made a big play for us right at the end of the quarter. As the buzzer's going off, he's going into the end zone. And, there's just a lot of guys that we feel confident in that can go out and make plays. And, Trey finally, got him in the end zone on that first drive. He's been making some big plays for us. So, I really feel like, when we can be explosive, Emory, I thought, did a good job for us when he was a receiver, as well as the drive or 2 that he came in at quarterback. He went up and, on the bootleg, gave Dion a chance to go up and make a big play, and Dion's went up 2 or 3 times for us now. and made big receptions for us on 50-50 balls, and that's kind of been one of the areas we've really talked to him about specifically. Is he's got a big frame, he's a big receiver. If we throw a 50-50 ball, we expect you to go up and get the football and bring it down. He's done a really good job of being aggressive to the football and doing that, and it allows us to do some different things whenever you've got the ability to go and do that. And then obviously whenever your defense scores 2 or 3 times, I'm telling you, man, it changes things. So it's just fun watching everybody get involved on both sides of the ball, and guys that, like he said, that we know can do special things with the football when they get it on special teams, or we get plays to them and they go make big plays. Just fun to watch and fun to see them be rewarded for what they're doing during the week.
We talked about the receivers, but how about your quarterback? He stepped up over 190 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. I mean, he looked pretty good Friday night.
Yeah, I thought we did a good job of letting him be comfortable in the pocket. And I don't think there's ever been any doubt that whenever he's comfortable, he knows our progressions. He knows our passing game really, really well, and he can get the ball to him. He can make every throw on the field. At Malden, I watched him throw a comeback from the right hash all the way to the left sideline. That's about a 45-yard throw. So, he's done a good job of when we allow him, to be comfortable and to work through everything that we're working through. Our passing game is really in depth. It's really good. There's answers within everything that Coach Turk calls for everything they're giving us. So when those guys know that, and our O-line does a great job like they did Friday night of protecting him and letting him stand in that pocket, feel comfortable, and know he's got time to go 1, 2, and 3, and then to his check down if need be. Josh does a really good job for us, and I think we saw that Friday night.
Absolutely.
All right, we've talked about Josh and DJ. We're going to take a commercial real quick. We'll come back and we'll have our offensive and defensive players of the week.
Have you been hurt by church? Have you maybe lost your faith or lost your way? We understand that at View Church because we've been there. If you're looking for an authentic place to worship with authentic people that understand brokenness, we would love for you to come and be our guest sometime. We have 2 services at 8:30 and 11, and we're located at 5555 Paris Bridge Road in Bowling Springs. Come, find hope again.
All right, back here with Real Talk with Coach Matt Real. We're going to welcome in our offensive and defensive players of the week this week against Chapman Panthers. Offensive player of the week this week was quarterback Josh Call. Defensive player of the week was defensive back DJ Lee. Congratulations, guys. Josh, we'll start with you. Big night for you, and pretty much a half a game. I don't think you played did you play very many snaps in the second half?
No, I didn't play at all.
Run the clock, we didn't need you to. Had that run the clock going, but man, you put up some phenomenal numbers: 197 yards, 3 touchdowns in the first half. Tell us what you saw. I mean, what did the game just open up for you and slow down for you on Friday night, or what was the epiphany? Where did all that come from Friday night?
Yeah, I think it all came from Coach Turk putting in a good game plan. My receivers going where it needs to go, and my O-line giving me the time to go through my reads. So yeah, that's what I saw.
Now, last year you came off the bench some with Lincoln, obviously starting and getting most of the snaps. But what was it like playing behind him and learning from him? Like a 3-4 year starter, I believe, was Lincoln. To have that leadership in front of you to now to draw on his knowledge, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, it was a privilege because he was a really good leader, and he's been there for so long. He knows what he's doing, and
yeah.
Yeah.
You got Grayson obviously coming back. You've probably got him, but you got Suber. And what's your relationship? Do you guys, you and your receivers, do you spend a lot of time together and work on a lot of routes and stuff? With just you guys together.
Yeah. Before the season or off season, around March, I didn't know Trey, and we would do Sunday practices here on the field, and we would just throw the ball around. Grayson would come, a lot of receivers from everywhere, and some quarterbacks. Coach Turk, he would teach us all and coach us with mechanics stuff. So we got that extra time together.
Yeah, and being in Coach Turk's system, I guess you're familiar. Just keep it flowing with you this year. Are you a senior this year? Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I'm a senior.
Okay. But do you got any plan? What are your plans? What are you looking forward to in the future after Bowling Springs High School?
Hopefully college. That's what I'm wanting to do. But after that, if not, probably a full-time job or probably looking to work with my dad somewhere.
Josh, looking at your numbers for the season, over 400 yards passing, 5 TDs. That's a pretty good start to the season.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, let's like triple that from here on out. You know, I think you got the ability to do that. But how much confidence have you made some good throws, 3 touchdowns Friday night? I mean, that should just be building your confidence for your whole receiver core that we were just talking about.
Yeah, it really does.
Good.
Sorry, I'm having some little camera difficulties, so I'm trying to
Well, I
get
think
everything straightened out for you.
I think one of the big things with Josh too is, as a sophomore, he commanded our JV offense, which was not as in depth as what we do on Fridays, but a lot of the same principles, a lot of the same, concepts. It's the same, then as it is now. It's just a little bit more. So, being coached by Coach Turk, really his 3rd year now, and being able to have that relationship and that growth. And I think he did a good job last year. I mean, it's not anybody's ideal situation to be the backup quarterback, last year, but I thought he was really mature about how he handled it, did a great job in practice. When he got his opportunities in the game, took advantage of them. And, I think if he hadn't have done that, I don't think we'd be sitting here having these conversations right now. So it's a testament to him of, understanding the process, understanding, where he fits into all that, and being able to take advantage now of the opportunities he's created for himself with how he's put the work in and that the trust he's created amongst his teammates.
Well, Josh, like I said, you were selected as Offensive Player of the Week against Chapman. We're going to give you this certificate here.
Yes, sir. Thank
And appreciate you. You did a great job.
Show it to the camera.
you. Sorry, Coach.
Great job on Friday night. Looking forward to the rest of the season. And congratulations. We'll move over to DJ now.
Sir,
if you want to share the mic there. DJ, congratulations. You were selected as the Defensive Player of the Week this week against Chapman. You had a great game.
Thank you.
Not necessarily. There's a lot of factors that went into it. Your interception, number one. Run us through that. Your interception on that game. What led for that interception?
What kind of defense were you? Were you zone? Were you man to man?
We're in zone.
Yeah.
Cover
Sorry.
4.
Okay.
We're having technical difficulties, so I'm trying to concentrate on about 4 different things.
Well, one of the things is it seems like it just keeps happening every week. But Todd and I, during the game, we start talking about possible candidates for Players of the Week, offense, defense, and your name came up early, and we had a couple other names, trying to figure out, okay, who we're going to pick, and then it was like, okay, DJ Leak on the tackle. Okay, DJ Leak on the coverage. Okay, DJ Leak pressured the quarterback. DJ Leak. I mean, your name just kept coming up, and so by the end, it was an easy decision for us. When we came to make the decision. So, and you've kind of been playing like that all year. I think you're back on some pump coverage.
Yes, sir.
As well. So your multifaceted game is just not one-sided on defense, and so is there any part of your game that you specialize in more than the other?
Not really.
Okay.
I try to do the best I can that my coaches and teammates need me at.
Yeah. How long you been on the varsity? Is this your first year on the varsity?
Yes, sir. I played a little last year on varsity.
Okay.
This is my first year mainly on varsity.
Okay. All right. You're a junior this year?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
A lot of again Friday night with all hats on defense, but a lot of your yards on the punts and everything getting position kind of led us to your name too, and
Yes,
your name came up on special teams as well as defense. That's why when we started talking, we were just like, let's just go with DJ. So do you like being there back there in returns, or would you rather be back in the defensive backfield?
I definitely punt.
Yeah.
Because I like to play offense, but it's not really happening this year. But I mean, that's just all in my hands, and hopefully make a play for
There
me
you
and my
go.
team.
Yeah. Got to have hands, right?
sir.
Yeah.
Playmaker.
Yeah.
And you're a junior, is that right?
Yes, sir.
This year. So I mean, you continue going this year, and ain't no telling where he's going next year.
No, and it's, we've had these conversations he can do, and I think that's one reason why he's one of our deep guys on kickoff return, one of our deep guys on our punt return. Obviously, Friday night, a lot of people don't know, but he's had some guys banged up, and we're like, look, man, don't go play. It doesn't matter. He hadn't done it since the summer. He actually played safety pretty much most of the summer, moved into spur, and then Friday night he's starting at corner. So it's really, like I said, it's a testament to him, one, being able to be coached, but then it's not very often that you have kids, and I'm just being very honest, in this day and age that say, Coach, man, wherever you need me to go, I'm going to go. And I'm going to go play, and I'm going to play really, really well. I told him, being able to send film off to these colleges. Now, he's had 3 or 4 colleges reach out the last couple weekends about coming and getting visits, but when I can send a guy a film of him playing outside linebacker, of him playing safety, of him playing corner, just on the defensive side, and then we show him clips from last year of him playing slot receiver, and then we have all of our return game stuff. I mean, essentially, as a college coach, you're recruiting 6 guys in one. So it's no doubt, that's going to be something that those guys look at and they're like, look, man, I got 6 things I got to get covered. This kid can do every one of them. So I'm going to bring him in over this kid that can only do one thing. So, again, it's just a testament to DJ and his maturity and saying, hey, look, man, I trust you guys with what you're doing and putting them in a position to make plays. And, there might be a time in the near future where he is, on the offensive side. You guys are trying to figure out what the heck's going on because he's everywhere, So, but again, I just, talks about who he is as a person, being bought into our team and just going and doing whatever's called to be done that week.
Yeah, when we got here Friday, I just got a text message. We didn't know about Jeremiah until we got here, and you and I spoke in the press box. So just the next man up mentality for you, right, DJ?
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, we were just like, what's going to happen? And they're like, DJ's got it, don't worry about it. DJ's got it, don't worry about it. We're going to be fine. So it was good to know that obviously he's got the confidence enough you need to put you back there and know you're going to take care of business. So
Yes, sir.
I just want to congratulate you. Defensive Player of the Week against Chapman is DJ Leak. There's your certificate, my man.
Thank you.
And we appreciate y'all. Josh, appreciate you coming on. We're going to take a real quick commercial. We'll come back with the rest of the show with Coach Real.
Derrick Henry.
Hey, Jake from State Farm. I saved so much bundling, it inspired my workout. Auto! Home!
Okay. And this is Auto again, right?
Auto!
Hey, this is my living room.
Home!
Bundling, just another way to save with the personal price plan.
The dog isn't allowed on the couch, Derek.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Call Agent Chad Wagner, Asheville Highway, Spartanburg, 585-7999.
All right, back here with Real Talk with Coach Matt Real, and Coach, we'll go back to the Chapman game for a few minutes. You talked about before we got with Josh and DJ, all the different players on defense, and that was one thing that stood out to me Friday night was, well, there's so many players. You're calling everybody's name, but it's always somebody different. You're not having to depend on one guy or 2 guys to stand out to take care of business. That whole defensive unit is coming together and just really starting to rock people's world.
Well, and that's the way it's designed to be. Obviously, there's some guys that are going to make a lot of plays because that's just the level of how good they are. But, I think there's a lot of unselfish people on that side of the football that just do their job and realize, hey, this play, my job is to make sure that this guy doesn't have anybody to block him so he can make the play. And then the next play, it might be the total opposite. We may be showing a linebacker on a blitz to get their eyes somewhere else. So we get one-on-one matchups with Dennis and Weed and Talley and some of those guys up front. So I think the biggest thing, which was huge last year, was, from an interception standpoint, from a, causing fumble standpoint, we've been very opportunistic and we've made the plays. There's not been a whole lot of balls hit us in the hand and go to the ground. I think we saw that against Greer, in the second half. We had a lot of footballs that were in the air for a long time that we should have made a play on, or we dropped one and they get another chance. The last little bit, the balls we've had a chance to make plays on, we've done a good job of doing that. And, Coach Anderson does a really good job of demanding excellence from our guys. And, we didn't have that against Malden, and it, it hurt us, obviously. Give up some big plays that, technically usually we don't give up. And I think the guys, took it to heart and took a challenge last week, and they did a great job of executing our game plan and really just, like I said, dominating, almost every possession, and just making things really, really hard for Chapman.
We were talking to Dennis before we came on air, and we were joking with him and told Dennis he had to tell Tavion he needed to take him out to dinner because Dennis is making Tavion's job pretty easy.
No doubt.
By putting pressure the whole
Sure.
defensive line. You mentioned Carson Weed, getting in there and just disrupting their offense and letting like you said, your playmakers come and make plays.
Well, I think, the number of interceptions you have and the number of sacks you have are are kind of like it's on the football team. He set our pro shuttle record the first 3 weeks he was on campus with us. So, and he's kind of in a tough spot, man. He wants to be the quarterback, and he does some good things for us. And but our thing is with him, like if he's not in at quarterback, we got to find a play for him to be on the football field, because he's way too dynamic for us to be over there hanging out with me, you know. And
it's several touches Friday night.
No doubt.
You see his athleticism.
And he did a lot of things this summer that kind of opened our eyes a little bit to how he can stretch the field and really, give us some vertical passing games that we're going to need versus these teams that really just want to play man coverage and load the box and force you into some bad situations. So, anytime you got a guy that can win a one-on-one battle, you got to feel good about that. And he's been great, great attitude. He's still working at quarterback. That's still our plan. We've not made any decisions that he's just this or just that. We're going to continue to push the envelope with him, and him and Josh are going to continue to battle it out every week, and Macon as well. But as a coaching staff, if we've got a guy that can help us, you got to be open to doing that. So, feel good about our group. Just trying to. Sometimes it's hard to get everybody the ball. It's a good problem to have. As long as your guys stay together and keep working together, then it won't be a problem.
Yeah, well, one more thing on Chapman before we move on to Gaffney. You talked last week about your relationship with Coach Cabinets. Great guy. You seem to be good friends and everything. Hopefully he didn't take that butt whooping too seriously.
No, I think it wasn't too long ago we were getting those. I watched a lot of film before I got here. When I got access to it finally, and had some time, I knew in December I had the job, and we had to, or was supposed to get the job, and had to wait on the board approval and all that kind of stuff. So it was a little bit of a process, and so I had a lot of downtime, just trying to be able to look at some stuff, and they were really good for a long time. And one of my goals when I got here was to win every non-region game and to win our rivalry games. And Chapman was a team that I looked at as somebody that we needed to make sure we would come in and we would beat. Make it a yearly thing that we expected to win that game every year. That they're struggling a little bit right now. He's had a ton of injuries. In the preseason, they had 2 or 3 big injuries. Had a couple guys out last week. Hopefully he'll get them back this week, and then obviously had 2 or 3 guys get hurt during our game. So I know a lot of those guys over there. I know his defensive coordinator really, really well. I feel like I know Harry pretty well. We talk a lot. Try to help each other out as much as we can. I tell him there's 1 week out of the year that I really don't want to help you. But other than that, I'll do anything for him I can. He's a great guy. He's helped me out a ton, especially this past year with our youth league, trying to get that set back up the way we needed to, get back into the league we were in before. He went to bat for us and really sold me, to the guys behind closed doors that had to let us back into that league and be a part of it. So, he's a great guy. I get to see him tomorrow. We got North-South meetings tomorrow for the All-Star game, and just a great guy. Those kids are lucky, to have him as their head coach. He does a great job. His staff does a great job. They're going to be fine, man. They just got to get healthy. And I think once they get healthy, you'll see a little bit, they'll have a lot better product once they get all their guys back out there and get everybody back on board that they should have out there with them right now.
Yeah, they look very young and very injured. So, well, we'll move on. Off week this week. Their Bulldogs have a bye week. Don't have a game this Friday night. So we'll look forward to next week. Big, the new season starts, Region 2 5A.
Yeah, everybody says the off week, and I'm like, this is not an off week.
Well,
when you play
you
Gaffney,
just don't have a game Friday.
No, when you play Gaffney the next week, it's never an off week. And I think there's a lot of benefit to having 2 weeks to prepare for somebody. When I was at the coast, everything was about beating Myrtle Beach, and we had to find a way. That was like our kryptonite. We were little brother, and then we had to figure it out. And I finally got our schedule set up to where we had a bye week every week before we played them. So they were still playing, but then we had 2 weeks to literally go back through 8 or 9 years of film of every formation they had used, every trick play they had ran, anything different that you wouldn't typically see. And I thought we had some success the next 3 or 4 years that we had not had in a long time there. So I felt like we had an ability to prepare over and above what we would have been able to in a 3 or 4 day window. So now in the situation we're in now, they have a bye week as well. So they've got 2 weeks to prepare for us and break down all of our strengths, our weaknesses, and all those type things. But you know, when you have 2 weeks to prepare, I mean, they could come out and do some different stuff that we haven't seen, and we have to adjust to it. But you should feel like, you know, if your kids approach it the right way, if your coaches are prepared, you know, if you take advantage of the extra week, then we should be able to play a really good game, you know, against those guys. And I think we have every year I've been here. You know, my first year it was, I think, 9-6 midway through the fourth quarter. The next year we lost by a touchdown at Gaffney, had a touchdown taken off the board late in the game that I thought would have tied it up. Lost in overtime last year, so, you know, we've kind of, if we've been there, man, we've been knocking on the door, we just ain't kicked it in yet. So, you know, as I told the kids, there ain't nobody that goes to the reservation and wins if they don't go and take it. I can promise you that. I've seen it myself as a, you know, I did my student teaching there and was able to be around a lot of those guys and what that looked like, and got a ton of friends that are from that area, grew up there, still there. Obviously one of our former coaches, Bubba Wright, is back there coaching where he grew up and played. So know a ton about the place, and it's just a football town, man. They love it, man. They expect it. They've got a really good football team. I know they're 1-2 right now, but there was a time a couple years ago that Dutch Fork had lost 3 or 4 games as well, and then ran the table and won a state championship.
That's right.
So for anybody to think that Gaffney is just going to roll over after being 1-2, I think it's going to be quite the opposite. I think we're going to go in there, and it's going to be hostile, and it's going to be wild, and it's going to be everything that you would want as a high school football coach and player to be a part of.
Yeah, they definitely don't want to go to 1-3, especially to, you know, a region rival. You know, 1-2 coming off a bitter loss to what seemed to be a Greenville game. We kept up with most of the game, and they led Greenville for most of the game. Greenville came there and beat them late, so they're gonna have a little bad taste in their mouth with their week off as well. So, and plus being home with their home crowd is
absolutely.
There's no reason not for either team to be hyped going into next week.
Yeah, and this extra week off though, Coach, is probably going to help you because Gaffney's got a new coach, Donnie Littlejohn. He was offensive coordinator for 6 or 7 years. He's pure Gaffney. He played for Gaffney High School back in the 90s, went to Furman University, and then came back to start coaching. Been an assistant under Dan Jones until Dan Jones retired this year, and they named him the head coach. He's got a new offensive coordinator. I think he brought him over from South Point, and new defensive coordinator from North Carolina. What do we know about these two coordinators, about their offense and defense?
Yeah, I mean, I think just from the film we've seen, there's still some similarities. You know, to me, as a head coach, going from a coordinator position to a head coach, you still have the core beliefs and core values that you believe in and want to be a part of. So, you know, they're really talented. You look at every position group, man, they are really talented across the board. So, you know, we've got the film, we've seen, you know, what we've seen. All we can do is study, you know, what we've seen in the past. We'll go back and look. You know, his imprint's still going to be there.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Defensively, a little bit different than what we've seen in the past, but still some similarities. You know, we also, you know, when we played J.L. Man earlier this year, you know, Bryce was their co-DC. They do have Randy Birch, who's back, who was the co-DC with him. He went to the head coach at Rock Hill. Now he's back at Gaffney. So the staples of what they've had there the last, 9 or 10 years outside of the new coordinator are still there. So I don't think it's going to be this crazy different look than what you've seen. There's a little bit of difference between their base looks and some of the stuff they're doing, but very similar. They're going to press you. They're going to get after. They're going to be physical, super athletic. You know, obviously playing at home, it's a little bit different, man. They take so much pride in that stadium and winning there. And you know, just being around it, man, there's so much tradition there, so much pride in, you know, what that G stands for, the people that were there before, and, you know, they always have a new saying of chasing the next state championship every year. So for me, this is what I came here for. This is what I came to South Carolina for. I just remember driving down, you know, when I was going to Limestone, going to school there, I, you know, go past the school all the time. I remember getting on 26 and passing Dorman, and obviously, you know, hearing about Burns and all that, and now, you know, being able to be where I'm at, be excited about the opportunities to play, you know, these schools that have traditionally been powerhouses, you know, the schools that have won multiple state championships, you know, 18, I believe, is the number. if I remember correctly.
They lost count.
You know, it's just for me, like you get to test yourself. Like you get to go into these places where people have, traditionally have not won very many games. And say, hey, look, man, we got a chance this Friday night to go to Gaffney and win a football game. And for me, that's the fun of it. That's the challenge of it. Getting your guys to believe that they have a great opportunity to go and compete and play and win this game. And go to Dorman and go to Burns and go to Spartanburg and play these games and be competitive and go and win and have something that could be a legacy here. It's just exciting, man, and I hope our kids are as excited as we are as coaches, because I know I got a bunch of dogs in there that are excited about coaching every single week and have never shied away from the schedule we play. So it's a big opportunity for us. Obviously it's the first region game, but anytime you play one of our bigger schools that we've had to play traditionally over and over and over again, it's always a big night, for the community. It's always a big night for the school, and it's always a big opportunity for us to be able to do something that hasn't been done here very much.
Yeah, since moving to the new reservation from the old reservation, Bowling Springs has had some success up there. I mean, maybe not in wins and losses, but like you said, 2 years ago, we were a touchdown away from being, we're in that game the whole time. And it's you look back over the course of since that new school started, Bowling Springs has had some decent success up there.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is like we got to win.
Yeah.
I'm personally tired of the you almost got it done, coach.
Yeah.
You played them really well. You know what I mean?
Good game.
And obviously, we want to play well every Friday night. We want our kids to execute at a high level, but year 4, you're going into this thing and you want to keep seeing progression. You want to keep seeing guys in our team do things that we've never done since I've been here, but then also traditionally, when you start looking at how many times we've beaten a lot of these schools, it's not a whole lot, and for us to be in these games, the last 3 years coming into this year, thinking back through the Dorman games, we lost there on the last play of the game 2 years ago. We lost to Burns in double overtime. We lost to Gaffney in overtime. We've lost to Spartanburg in a close game. We've beaten Spartanburg. We've beaten Dorman. But we haven't done those things consistently. And again, there's that word that I keep coming back to. And it's not easy, man. Like this stuff that beating these teams, there's a reason why they've won as much as they have. They're coached really, really well, and they got really good players. So it's not an easy thing to come in and do where you just snap your finger and say, all right, well, I want to beat Burns, so we're going to beat Burns. I want to beat Gaffney, so it don't work that way. So I'm just really pleased that we're at a position now where we're expected. And there are expectations within our program, within our school, within our community of not only do we applaud you for going and playing these games, but we expect you to compete and we expect you to win these games. And I think that says a lot of how we've grown the program, but obviously the next step of that is fulfilling those expectations and winning these games that are really 50-50 games in a lot of ways.
Yeah, like I said, me being around the program, we've talked before. I've been around the Bowling Springs program for 40 years. And you got used to, you would have a good team about every 5 years.
Yeah.
And then when that group graduate, you got to rebuild, and it'll be another 5 years. And you've kind of gotten away from that now. People expect Bowling Springs to be winning now, and I think you've changed that mentality around here.
Well, I think I'm not from here. When I came here, I didn't know anybody. I knew of Mr. McQuigg and I knew of Coach Moxie, but didn't have a clue about anything. Just knew that obviously 2016 played for a state championship, and then the year after and the year before they were pretty good. And then I knew about Mr. Clark, Coach Clark, and what he did and the mentality that he brought. Met his son and got to talk to him a little bit about it, and just felt like this was a place that was just blue collar people that would work really, really hard, that cared, that wanted something special here. And watching the film, I felt like we had good enough players that if we put them in the right positions, if we trained them the correct way, if we implemented the weight room the right way, if we put them in situations where we really coached them up to the things that they did well and didn't try to force a system onto them that they weren't fit to do, now we should have a chance. And I think our kids have just done a really good job of trusting, like DJ earlier. You're just talking about him, just trusting what we're doing, trusting the program, trusting that we have the best interest for you in our heart every single day, and we're going to try to build you up to be the best version of you that you can be. And our kids have done that, man. And whatever faults they had, whatever things we had that we just weren't very good at, I think our guys have done a good job of attacking those and trying to take away the deficiencies as much as possible, and then obviously maximizing the things that we do really, really well. And our coaching staff, I can't say enough about them. They're phenomenal, not just from a football standpoint, but they truly and genuinely care about each one of our players. And our players have bought into that, and I think they realize that. And to me, I've always felt like when players knew that it wasn't just a football interaction, it wasn't just a what can you do for me interaction. When they actually know that we have an invested feeling about that kid, we're going to get everything out of them we can. And I think that's what we've done since we've been here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Coach, you mentioned Gaffney's record 1 and 2, and I'm sure they take the same attitude as we do. You don't put much stock into the record in the non-region games. They know the season starts next Friday night, but we mentioned they're adjusting to some newness over there. They have a bunch of transfers coming in. They're also playing a dual quarterback system over there. They're returning quarterback and then a transfer, Banks Bowden, coming in from Greenville High School. What do you know about those two quarterbacks?
They've used them a lot in different ways. Definitely, we're going to have to be prepared for both. I think both of them, just like in our situation, they both have things that they do really, really well. They both have some things that I'm sure they're working on, which is obviously why they're using a two quarterback system right now. I think it's tough whenever you have really, really good players to just kind of set one in motion as the guy whenever there's things that the other one does really, really well too. So, we got to have a plan. Last year I think hurt us a little bit whenever Javon wasn't in there anymore, and Smith went to quarterback. We hadn't seen that,
right?
And we hadn't replicated what it was like him getting the ball 30 times in a row.
Yeah.
And he just did a really good job of beating us, and that's what it came down to. This year, not that I'm not saying we're going to take everything away, but just looking at from a true quarterback standpoint, what each one of those guys does really well. What are the things that we think that we can take advantage of possibly, and try to again make those guys be the most well-coached guys on the field, to where they have to make a ton of decisions in a really small time frame, and hopefully doing that puts them in some bad situations.
Well, I glanced at each of their 2024 stats. Gilmore threw for over 2,500 yards, 26 TDs, and then Bowden threw for 2,200 yards, 18 TDs. Bowden also had 13 rushing touchdowns, so he seems to be more of the running quarterback, but they both can air it out.
Yeah, he's a big physical guy. He's really impressive on film. He seems to be very tough. They trust him in those short yardage situations, a lot of quarterback design runs. And then obviously Gilmore throws it really, really well. He's also they've used him a lot in the RPO game. They've done some zone read stuff with him, looking at their scrimmages and then the games they've played. So, man, both guys are really good players. Make no mistake about it. If you're the quarterback at Gaffney and you're getting reps at Gaffney, then you're a good player. I've been around there a long time, going and watching games, and obviously now breaking down film and seeing those guys. There's a reason why they want the ball in their hands every single play. So, again, I think just like with anybody else, man, we got to put pressure on them. We got to put them in pressure situations. I don't want their offensive coordinator making the decision. I want 17, 18-year-old kids, or young men. They're not kids. They're
right.
young men.
Yeah.
Having to make those pressure situations and decisions over and over and over and over and over. If they're comfortable, we're going to be in trouble. So we got to do a great job of disguising things. We got to do some different things they haven't seen. They're watching film too. So ain't like we just the only one that got film. So they're, and they got some things to figure out too. Our defensive coordinator is different this year. Our personnel is a little bit different from what we had last year offensively, as far as the guys that are playing. So, we each got some different things we got to figure out, and I think whoever does the best job of, taking away the things the other team does really well is going to have a chance to be successful.
Yeah. Well, Coach, we know we're going to have the team ready. Hopefully we can get this week and next week. You got any injuries that might be nagging, we can get taken care of, and we'll get ready to go up 85 and take on the Gaffney Indians next Friday night.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big week for us. We got a couple guys that we're hoping, we get them healed up this week. A couple guys that played last week that were okay, probably wouldn't know a whole lot, but just kind of had some, like you said, nagging stuff going on that we need to get taken care of. So I told our guys this week's all about us. We're doing some introductory stuff, so they'll see it obviously in film and then on field as far as what Gaffney does and what that looks like. But essentially this week, and how I try to treat all bye weeks, is let's shore up the things that we're not really liking that we're doing right now. Let's get our guys healthy, and then towards the end of the week, we'll really start getting into the breakdown, installs. Give us a couple extra days of install so that when we get here Monday, it's more of just a normal. It's almost like a Tuesday mentality, on Monday. So that's the plan. Looking forward, obviously to the challenge next week and getting into our region play.
Yep, sounds good. Reminder, no game this Friday night. Bulldogs have a bye week. Next Tuesday, there will not be a Real Talk with Coach Real. So the next broadcast will be the following Friday night, September the 19th, as the Bulldogs travel up 85 to take on the Gaffney Indians. Check out Bowling Springs Upstate Prepcast for the links to the games next Friday night, and then we'll see you after the Gaffney game for the Real Talk with Coach Real.
If you know anybody at Cookout, have them contact Coach Real. He's got a proposition for you next year.
So,
let's get it going. I like it. I like the idea.
All right,
let's make it a big thing.
Sounds good. Coach Matt Real, Coach, the Real Talk with Coach Real, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks, Coach.
Hey, appreciate y'all, and like always, man, go Dogs.
Yes, sir.
All right.